Welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. I'm Dr. Cheryl, and today we have the wealth of your legacy. And we have a very special guest, Monte Paulsen, or Montgomery Paulsen. Actually, we met about 10 years ago. It's
Absolutely.
been
10 years?
10 years.
Yes.
Monty is, chime in, please.
You're good so far.
You're from Cloverdale, born and raised, yeah?
Born in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Raised Southern California for a while, and then Cloverdale, Sonoma County, since I was 10.
Oh, okay.
And then out into the big wide world after growing up there.
Okay, so you have that diverse socialization, actually, living in LA, right?
Well, yes. I guess I decided to move when I was about 10 and moved up to wine country in Sonoma. With some input from my parents, I think.
Were you decided? You mean your family didn't, or how did that happen?
Well, children have a large influence on their parents.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure I had an overdue amount of influence. But it was a nice place for the family to get away from Los Angeles. Grew up down there. And then for the first couple of years, it was a summer home up there in Cloverdale, Alexander Valley.
Okay.
Until we finally made the decision to move full-time out of Los Angeles. My uncle, my father's brother, had a summer camp, a children's summer camp in Healdsburg.
Oh, okay, not too far away from there.
Yeah, so we had gone up and stayed there a couple of times as kids, horses and countryside and a lake and canoes and hiking and things like that.
That's a great kid place,
yeah,
actually.
Yeah, really nice. And so we moved up along the Russian River there at the south end of Cloverdale near Asti, which we were to become famously associated with later on.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a little while.
Okay.
So you went to Duke and got your MBA.
Duke MBA, my undergrad got 2 undergrad degrees from UC Davis, one in winemaking and the other in English.
Was that the same? Oh, in English, so you can write. Definitely. Or read and write and
read,
correct.
Write, some arithmetic.
Some.
But that, then the MBA from Duke was something later on. That,
okay.
After
So you did the winery, the UC Davis first before you went to Duke, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you were learning about wine before you got your finance degree.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was a winemaker for many years in Sonoma and Napa.
And yes, and this is about you, but I have to bring up your father because I'm sure he's a huge influence on what you're doing. And Pat Paulsen is your father, and he was a comedian, and he did run for president, yes.
Other comedians have run for president, and some say we've got one in the office now.
Oh my God, it's beyond that.
Beyond.
Oh,
Beyond the laughs just keep coming.
Oh. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh. Anyway, I won't say anything because I have to be polite about that subject, so I won't even go there. So now when did your father start Pat Paulsen Winery?
Well, we bought the land in, I think it was 1971, and started growing grapes. So by the mid-70s, 75, 76, our grapes were being used at other wineries in Sonoma County with what we call a vineyard designation. So it was the Pat Paulsen Vineyard.
Was that in Livermore or up in Sonoma?
Well, in Sonoma. So we were first featured at Chateau St. Jean there with our Sauvignon Blanc, won a lot of awards and garnered a lot of attention. Our red wines were used by Pedroncelli Winery They bought the grapes for that and went into their Sonoma County, a couple of their blends, Sonoma County Cabernet Sauvignon blend, and based on a lot of the excitement surrounding those two wines, we eventually decided to launch our own winery.
Okay, so when did that up in Sonoma?
Up in Sonoma, so we got that going in the late 70s, and by 1979, we were crushing grapes at our own winery, and 1980 was the first big year of production. So we were making wine since 1980.
Okay.
Sonoma County, Alexander Valley,
Right.
well known for Cabernets, nice hearty reds,
I'm
great
so
Sauvignon
glad.
Blancs.
I'm so glad that the fire didn't get that far up there.
No,
You know,
it's
this time around.
it's down towards Geyserville, which was 5 miles towards the south of it. And I don't know exactly where the fire stopped and started. I looked at some of the charts, but I saw that our old property, which we sold 20 years ago or something,
Yeah.
no longer in our hands, but
Is
it
that-
still exists.
Is that when you went out to Livermore Valley? That you?
No, we moved after we sold the winery and sold the land. I held on to the brand, kept the brand, and was doing little projects and started making wine over in Napa. Moved over there, but kept it low key, under the radar. Little lots here and there, no taste room, nothing like that. But then we started expanding the brand up there, and got too big for the facilities we were using there, so outgrew that.
So.
Looked around, and Livermore seemed like a good place to go.
Oh, okay. Well, no pun intended, but I guess you organically grew.
Organically grew. Yeah, one step at a time, one thing led to another,
Yeah.
and I don't know that any of it was had any long-range plan.
Oh, okay. It just happened.
It just happened
Yeah, but you've also
organically, as
made
they
it
say.
happen.
Well,
I mean, it seems like you're a wine master. You have.
been doing it long enough. Yeah, so I studied at a number of mostly Sonoma, but some Napa wineries. Ferrari Carano, winemaker at Deloach Vineyards in Santa Rosa. Worked briefly at Seamead, did some work with Preston, and then eventually worked in different parts of the industries, ended up going back, picked up my master's degree, finance at Duke, an MBA, and continuing to explore right now. So a lot
What
of
does
things.
that mean?
Well, we've got the Paulsen brand, Paulsen Family Wines, the main brand. I'm doing a lot of work with other winemakers. So a lot of growers that I work with have wanted to start their own brands. So what I do with them is we work out joint deals where they supply the grapes, I supply the winemaking. We can build their own brand. And so 3 of them have established already their own legitimate wineries, and I still continue to work with them. So some of the grapes go in under my winery, my label, my brands, and some go into their own.
Oh, okay.
So they're it's kind of fun. It's the dream of a grape grower to have his own winery. They look around, they say, well, the wineries seem to be making all the money. If I made wine myself, I could make some of that money. And as it turns out, well, then they learn about all the costs involved
right.
in developing
The
your own
reality.
brand. Yeah. So, and it's been up and down with them, but sort of long-term plan with all these other wineries now, vineyards, wineries.
You do that a lot, though, don't you? You know.
It seems lately, so last 10 years, after when I left Rosenblum Cellars, so I was vice president of winemaking there, and we sold that to a big corporation. Diageo is a name. There's no Diageo brands out there, but they own a lot of brands. Diageo owns Captain Morgan, Rum,
okay,
Smirnoff,
yeah.
Popov, a lot of wineries.
Yeah.
They're actually the largest, or one of the largest spirits companies in the world. their winery portfolio is smaller, half a dozen different wineries.
Yeah. So now, when did you have a wine bar in Oakland?
Mm-hmm.
And when did you start that?
Oh, that's been open about 10 years.
Oh, okay.
10 years, not officially, not licensed for 10, but we opened it for events, private parties.
Yeah.
And then recently, a year ago approximately, received all the proper licensing to open it full-time or semi-full-time, regular basis, in order to sell somebody a glass of wine and take cash. We couldn't do that before. We could give wine away, and that was guerrilla marketing. We'd do almost like a pop-up. We'd open up all the drapes, the curtains, the blinds, or whatever in front, and it's got the 20-foot ceilings, all glass. And as you come around the corner, you can see this thing all lit up.
Oh yes, I've been there.
Yes. And so.
And that's EBGB.
EBGB, the Underground Wine Bar. Not so underground anymore, but people won't let me change the name. I said, I've changed to something else.
Do you have any idea?
I don't know, the EBGB Wine Lounge? I don't know. Monty's place?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, okay, well, that's maybe.
But it sticks. It's a mysterious name, and we don't say what it means. Not publicly.
Oh, okay.
Not in polite.
Well, I know you had a little competition going
What's that?
to come up with.
Oh, we let people decide what it means. So we just give them a sheet of paper that says EBGB, and they come up East Bay Grape Bar. Every bottle gets better.
I submitted one too.
Do you remember what yours was?
Let's see, East Bay, like great, and I was trying to figure out what the B would be. Bottle, I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but I know I came up with one.
Well, and it's got some of the suggestions are a little on the risque side,
Oh, well,
and some are mysterious beyond me as to what
How did they come up with it?
Yes, what it means, but it's fun. It's all part of the fun, and it's a collaborative branding.
Yeah.
Sure, you tell me what it means.
I guess I have to know more about it, and then I can get creative. But
yeah, a couple of glasses helps those creative juices.
Yes, it does. So goodness. So how long have you had the I know you've had the vineyard out in Livermore for about 20 years?
Not that long.
Oh, not that long.
6, 7 years.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So
we were up in Napa producing it there, but with no public-facing tasting room, et cetera. And when we moved down there, it was a nice chance to do smaller lots just for the tasting room rather than for distributors back east. We do a lot of work with mostly Eastern distributors, but to be able to do 1 or 2 barrels at a time of some unique vineyard or unique blend, Livermore's great for that because it's a perfect wine club lot size. We've got a crowd of people that show up there that are, it's a pretty wide range on the demographics.
Yeah, I would imagine being on that corridor of 580, isn't it 580?
Well, it's 580, but more so than that, it's Tesla Road in Livermore, which is the winery, the most populated winery street, if that's the right way to put it.
Right.
Our tasting room and small winery there is right, it's in between Wente and Concannon. So 2 very well-known national brands that they can bring in 1,000 people on a Saturday to come through their tasting rooms.
Yeah.
We'll get, being right in between, they pull in whether they know about us or not,
Yeah.
so we get a lot of traffic
Check it
there.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and the fun thing about Livermore is that it's a lot like Sonoma was 30 years ago. Low key.
Well, I remember when, before Livermore came more famous for growing grapes and wines, I remember that it was supposed to be like the place to happen after Sonoma. That's been years ago.
Well,
I couldn't tell you how many years ago, but I remember.
It's slowly happening. What what's happening out there now is it's gaining an audience with this sort of South Bay, East Bay, non-traditional, non-snobby group of people. So we'll get plenty of millennials, plenty of young people that have no preconceived notions of what they're supposed to be drinking.
Oh.
So that if it's got a pretty label,
Yeah.
they may go for that. If it's a unique varietal, they'll go for that. What I don't see up in Napa, and I still do a lot of work in Napa and Sonoma, people go there and they want Cabernet. They maybe Chardonnay. And that's what they're going after.
Is that what you call maybe the more snobby type of
Well,
drinkers?
it's the more traditional,
Oh.
snobby, maybe one word for it. But they are looking, if you go to Napa these days, you're expecting to pay $30, $40 for a tasting. You're being pushed to buy a $100 bottle of Napa Cabernet or a $40, $50 bottle of the Chardonnay. And that's what it's all about up there.
Yeah.
And what we see in Livermore is that if I have a Cabernet on my tasting menu and a Syrah and a Zinfandel and a Grenache and something else, they're all equally likely to get somebody picking them up and liking them. I mean, we do get a certain crowd that comes in and says, no, show me your Cabernets, that's what but that's a really small part of it. The rest of them just say, show me what you've got,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna go home with whatever tastes good.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's fun, and it's great because what I find is it's a marketing focus group in essence, to sit there on a Saturday or Sunday, throw out some different wines that I'm working with and say, what do you think? And people will pick out blends they like, they'll try things that are unusual, it's a young crowd, so throwing some sweet wines at them is...
Well, you've created several wines yourself, haven't you?
Of course, I create all the wines
Well,
myself,
but I mean,
we've created
like,
some categories.
Yeah, like I noticed that you have one that's like coffee.
It's infused with coffee,
Yeah.
sort of like a coffee port, only they're not all sweet. So
Yeah.
we have a different range of styles of coffee. So whatever's selling at, say, Starbucks, we may go out and see if we could try that. A white mocha. Let's make a white mocha wine.
Huh. And how's that? I mean,
They sell out.
oh wow, that's good.
I get requests. The demand is bigger than I can
Yeah.
supply right now. Did some holiday spice,
Yeah.
pumpkin spice,
Oh, all that.
stuff like
all
that,
that,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like I'll make an amount that I think may sell, and then it sells out in a couple of weekends. So it's fun. It detracts a little bit from some of the stuff that I want to make for myself,
Yeah.
but it's...
You mean more traditional, or?
Well, I like that. I like the traditional, but and then I also like, there's new varietals, and no varietal is actually new, but they're new to the California public they've been lost to California history, but they're starting to gain, like they're just very obscure Italian, French, German varietals. One of my grower partners out in Lodi is playing around with the Ribolla Gialla. Yeah, well, there's actually Ribolla Gialla Society
Oh.
up in Napa. There are apparently 4 wineries growing that grape. It's this Italian grape from somewhere in Italy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where. And there's the grower I work with, Dwight Busalaki out in Lodi. He right now owns 20% of all Ribolla Gialla grape vineyard land in California, and he's only got about 2 acres. So but it's fun. People are beginning to accept that, but you don't find that in Napa.
Oh,
I mean, nobody goes up there it's like, what can you can get maybe $40 for this grape variety that nobody's heard,
Yeah.
or you get $100 for your Cabernet. So what's your accountant going to tell you to do?
Yeah, right.
Grow
right.
Cabernet. So That's
So it
that's
sounds like there's more unique brands out that way.
well, it's more experimentation. It's wide open for fun and new stuff. And
Yeah.
it reminds me so much of when we were just playing around trying to get our bearings straight in Sonoma. What should we grow? What
Yeah.
would be fun? Long before it became just the accepted wisdom that you got to grow Cabernet.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right.
So how did your father influence that at all?
Well, he made the decision to get into the wine business. He did not come from a wine background, but you're in Sonoma,
Yeah.
and it's the 70s, and in between the time we bought the land and the time we opened the winery, the whole 1976, the Judgment of Paris, they call it, was a big earth-shattering, at least in the world of winemaking and wine drinking, was the competition between American winemakers and French winemakers, judged by French wine critics, in which half the wines were California and half were French, and California won most of the top honors, and they call it the Judgment of Paris.
By the French?
The French
Wow.
judged the California wines to be better than the French, so there was a big
Interesting.
uproar. And
Were they American French or from France?
no, they were French,
from
as French as French
Yeah,
gets.
yeah.
And they immediately, put up their hands, sacre bleu, this is terrible, this is terrible, what are we going to do? But it's what really launched the premium wine segment in California. There was, obviously, there were good wines
Right.
up to that point, but nobody in a restaurant in New York was going to order a California wine if somebody said, give me something really good. They would have been laughed out of there, but that sort of thing put California on the map.
On
People
the
finally
radar,
said,
yeah.
I want the best in the world, and it just might be
If the
California.
French are saying it.
If the French are saying it.
Oh.
Right, and so that was announced after we started building the winery, but before we started selling it. So California suddenly was the jewel.
So the timing was good.
Timing was very good.
Yeah. So I know that I'm not real clear on this, but didn't you make a wine that like whiskey wine, or did you go out to whiskey? Because you just...
I do a lot of things in there. So I've got a wine aged in whiskey barrels that in itself is not completely new, except that I've got some tricks up my sleeve on it, and actually, since I also produce whiskey as a consultant for an up-and-coming whiskey distillery.
Is that where you got the 49er thing going?
It's 49ers, so our whiskey, it's Gold Bar.
I mean, this is a big
Whiskey
deal. Your Gold Bar, right?
Gold Bar.
Yeah.
We are now the official whiskey of the San Francisco 49ers on a multi-year contract. So I'll be
Is
down
that collaborative with one of your other partners, or how does that?
I work as a consultant for the brand. The distillery's on Treasure Island. That's where I was today. And we're gearing up for the next, so at the football games.
Yes, I've seen photos of you down in Levi,
That we just, we were the featured drink at Michael Mina's bar, which holds about 1,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And it's at the stadium itself. So they do a Michael Mina for, who knows, about $1,000. You can join their tailgate party with all the food you want, all the booze, and we created a signature drink to go along. So it was some of our Paulsen family Zinfandel that went into a whiskey drink. It was called a red and gold Manhattan, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Somebody came up with this and said,
Yeah.
it tastes real good if you top it off with a little red wine. I said, sure.
Oh,
So the next one we're going to try is a sparkling wine in another drink, and I don't know who's coming up with the drink or the name of it. Some celebrity bartender of some sort,
yeah.
mixologist.
yeah,
But they asked if we could do if we have any sparkling wine,
yeah.
and I do. I'm going to use my cold duck for it.
I know you said, because I had asked you before about sparkling wine, and it's a lot more complicated and more expensive, isn't it, to do that?
It is. It is. It's expensive to make, and it's actually difficult to make a living doing sparkling wine,
Yeah.
which is why only mostly just the large established, usually companies with European connections can make it and do it right. But it's fun to do a small amount of that, so I'm trying.
What makes it, I mean, my uneducation here, but what makes it more difficult?
Well, it's got a secondary fermentation in the bottle, so it ferments in the bottle, where it creates, and that creates the bubbles.
Oh, okay.
But the process of getting that yeast out of there, they do it in beer a lot, but in beer they don't seem to mind if it's cloudy.
Oh,
In most sparkling wines, they don't
clear.
want that.
No,
So you've got to
no.
settle it out, and
it's like,
you freeze the neck where all it all
Yeah,
settles
because-
down into the neck because the bottle's upside down. It gets frozen. You then uncork it, and the ice is removed, and then it gets topped back up with. It's a lot of extra equipment, a lot of extra
Yeah,
work,
yeah,
and it's but it's worth it
yeah.
and tasty.
Yeah, well, I like sparkling wine. I like champagne.
There you go.
That's where my taste is. Well, it's kind of exciting then to have the label in the 49ers. That's a big deal.
We got that. We're working on a lot of other marketing avenues right now. Some of the big tasks that I'm working on with them is seeing how quickly we can ramp this up.
Yeah.
We do.
Because once it's out there, I mean, who knows what'll start
It'll start going.
Yeah.
Well, it's we will have some announcements soon for some other. It's all top secret right now.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
But right now, the
yeah.
49ers are with us, so we've been going to those games and meeting with the team, meeting with the staff.
So you actually meet with the team.
Mm-hmm. The team came to one of the things, and we're actually putting together today some little gift packs for each team, for the team members.
Yeah.
So they got two teams, right? The team that plays on the field,
Right.
and then and the team that's in the back office. And we meet with
You mean
both.
like the administrative?
The administrative team,
yeah,
et cetera.
Yeah.
So it's big, and it's now out in all the stores. Well, many stores now, and it's taken off
Oh, that's good.
in a good way.
Good.
In a good way. Just now, it's a scramble to keep up with the
Oh.
production side.
Yeah, I'm sure. But that's a good place to be from a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's good. So please share how was it growing up with your dad? You know, being I mean, being a comedian and the influence, the good influence that he had on you.
Well, given so by the time I was 10, we were living in Sonoma. So, before that, I remember sitting there in 1968, maybe it was 72, to count back the years of handing out bumper stickers at events, people coming to our door at our house down in Southern California.
And was that for your dad's being a comedian or the wine or what?
The campaign.
The campaign, okay. Yeah,
the presidential campaign.
Yeah.
But then once we moved to Sonoma, it's a much different atmosphere. We're out on the ranch,
Yeah, right.
working in the
Low
vineyards.
key,
A little bit
more.
different.
Yeah.
But he's been running every election since '68, I guess. We ran them in the last one, the 2000, what year? Is it 16?
Oh,
I can't keep up. We got him out there for 2020. Putting him. We're gathering signatures, trying to get him on the ballot.
still.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he passed away.
Oh yeah, he's deader than a doornail, but that's not going to stop him from running for president. I mean, we've got all this. People send us slogans. We got slogans. People like, Pat Paulsen.
Have you ever thought about doing that?
Dying and then running for president?
No.
No. But dead man running, thinking inside the box. There was, throughout the years, there was years that he did better than Ralph Nader when Ralph Nader was on in the primaries. He did better. He beat David Duke, who was on the ticket in some state, and he subsequently dropped out of that election year. That was about 20 years ago.
It's okay.
It's okay.
And how long has he been gone?
15 years now.
Oh, okay.
Maybe more.
Yeah. So you can
It's been a while.
you can technically run for president when you're deceased.
People have done it, and people have won. I mean, maybe not.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you sometimes wonder about
But
some of our presidents, whether they were alive or dead.
we don't want to talk about the one
But
that we have now.
I mean, that's happened where the candidate dies and they still vote him in. And there's a famous case, and I don't know what level in politics, but his wife stepped in and took over.
Oh, I kind of remember that.
Yeah,
but I don't remember who
somebody
it
have to
was.
fact check this one on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he couldn't do any worse a job than some of the folks we've had in the thing. I mean,
especially now.
no decisions, just not going to make any decisions.
So what positive influence obviously the label, that you've run with the wine, Pat Paulsen label.
Yeah, right now we've got a few of them. We got the Pat Paulsen Vineyards. That's mostly shown up on the East Coast. Big distributors like that back east. The Paulsen family wines out here, and then some other sub brands that I create with other people, or I do an exclusive with somebody, and we have fun with that. New brand names, new funds. So it's sort of keep the Paulsen going in there, try to differentiate. I've got a few frivolous brands that in the long run, I don't know if I want the Paulsen name associated with them because they're different values and different price points, and you do this thing where you got to differentiate.
A good challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A good challenge for you.
Yeah.
So basically, your father kind of left the legacy to you.
Said, take it, kid, run with it. So, and that's...
And it wouldn't be where it is today without you putting all your energy into it.
That's good. Well, and my mother actually ran the winery, the business side. My father was on the road a lot, so he wasn't there for the day-to-day, and I was the winemaker. Sister worked in sales. My brother worked in the winery itself.
So do your siblings still work with you on this?
Occasionally, my sister will do some sales for us. My brother's works related industries for different companies.
It's all in the family.
Yeah, he's still in the wine business. Ends up doing, it's like me, I do a lot of consulting for other wineries, and he does a lot of that as well.
Yeah.
So we're still doing it. Mom's still kicking it.
Is she? Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while I take some. She lives in Healdsburg.
Oh, okay.
So I bring her some of the latest samples, get her opinion.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That keeps her going too.
Yeah, no, she's about 85 now. So good health.
Health-wise.
Up and down.
Yeah. Well, that happens when you're 85.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow. So, I mean, what good influence was your father on you?
Good influence.
Sorry, maybe you don't want to answer.
Well, I don't. You have to just step back and think about it. I mean,
It's all right.
one of the things.
I'm putting you on the spot, and I don't mean to.
You look at all the current politics out there, and it's, the worse it got, the better it was for him, because you can't make up this stuff at times.
Yeah.
So
So his humor really carried through there with all that.
Yeah, well,
challenge.
you look at it's Stephen Colbert and things like that. It's my father did it first, and that's stuff like Saturday Night Live. Various when you look at political commentary that's both insightful and amusing. That's a lot of people credit him for having made that popular. And it was somewhat as you look back in the 60s, and we were at a time when we just, coming out after World War II and Korea, and getting to the point where people stopped trusting politicians. And
I don't think that's ever come back.
yeah, there was plenty of
today.
divisiveness. You look at it in politics all through this country's history, but to be able to say something publicly about some knuckleheaded thing that the current administration or some candidate came out and said it just wasn't done that much back then. And when you did it, it was a big faux pas. And he broke the ice on being able to
Do it in a humorful way.
And call a spade and put it out there. It's good. And when he worked with the Smothers Brothers, they were very political, Tommy especially. And it's one of the few programs, the few nationally ranked, highly ranked television series that was canceled at the top of the rankings. So it was up there, it was ranked up as 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, of the top shows. And because of the political shenanigans that they were trying to get away with, they were getting shut down by elements through the
Are you talking
White
about
House.
The Smother Brothers?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so they ended up canceling the show, canceling a popular show, which doesn't happen. If they're making money, these networks keep wanting to make money, but it just became too political.
Well. So, is there anything else that you want to share about? Anything of your wisdom?
My wisdom?
Yes,
Ooh,
your wisdom.
No.
Because you've had quite a plethora of experience, across the board, with being raised with a famous father and, and being involved with the business and everything.
Yeah, funny, I talked to a former student of mine. So at some point I got picked to teach some classes, some winemaking classes at both Napa Valley College, and then I got to talking with some people over at Las Positas College out in Livermore, which has a younger winemaking program, but it's coming along pretty well. And I ran into a woman who she had been in one of my classes. And we ended up, we were both on a judging panel, wine judging panel, so for one of the competitions. And she gave me what I guess is a compliment. We were talking about something, and maybe it was some varietal, some wine style or something came up, and she asked me my opinion. And usually the way they set these judging panels up, you'll have a couple of winemaking experts, you have your marketing expert, you have a consumer, someone. So you get a range of expertises on there. And it was something to do with a slightly obscure bit of winemaking knowledge. And I told her, I said, well, I really don't know. I told her, it was something. I said, I don't know, I've heard of that, but I really don't know much about it. And she said, you know, Monty, I keep listening to all these other winemaking experts, and you're the only one that ever admits when he doesn't know something. Well, I mean, there's a lot out there to know.
Well,
I don't know it all.
you have your ego in check.
I don't know. My ignorance is my, I don't know, valor. I don't have any problem claiming admitting that I don't know. I don't know everything.
I mean, who does?
I don't know if that's wisdom or maybe it's just plain ignorance.
No,
No?
I mean, I think it's humble.
I don't know.
It's humble, you know, to be able
Yeah.
to admit when you don't know.
Well, it's nice to learn. I'm learning with the whiskey company. I studied distilling back in winemaking school, but it's like it's all brand new territory out there. And it's like some of the stuff, when I make stuff and try it out in my Livermore tasting room to millennials or to a younger crowd,
Right.
you can take a traditional wine and make it sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that love that. And I would never do that up in Napa.
You're right. Yeah.
But I get these people with absolutely no preconceived
guess
notions. And if they like it,
yeah.
you know, it's what middle America drinks sometimes, is fun, easy to drink wines. They're not all buying $100 Cabernets.
Yeah.
They just want something fun, and maybe it's got a little bit of a spritz to it. Maybe it's the infused wines we do, or maybe it's some stuff that I'm doing with the various distilled spirits and the whiskey. We're doing, you know, wine made in whiskey barrels out in my Livermore. Now I'm doing whiskey aged in wine barrels.
Oh,
And it's like, why not?
okay.
Why not try something different?
Yeah. I
And
mean,
try it out on some people, and
well, look what's happening. It's happening for you.
it's happening. Well, you see that a lot. You see the, you got three parts to the alcohol world. You got your beer, you got your distilled spirits, and you got your wine. And if you look at this explosion of craft brewing, craft distilleries, and they're popping up all over the place. We've got Alameda has a whole slew, San Francisco. There's plenty up here in the North Bay. You're seeing younger brewers, younger distillers going at this and just throwing the rules out, saying it's okay to make a beer aged in wine barrels. It's okay to infuse something different into a distilled
You got to be
spirit.
creative. I mean,
Yeah. You don't see much of that in the wine business,
yeah.
though, because it's dominated by older people,
Yeah.
older winemakers,
Tradition.
more male than female,
Yeah.
and very traditional. And you know, it's the type of thing that some of my wines I don't take around with my winemaker friends, because I know that they're just not going to get it.
Yeah. Right.
I have wines that they get, but it's the other ones. That's where all the fun is taking place out there.
So beyond the wine, are there any other dreams that you have?
Dreams. Well, let's see. Do the wine. I'm doing the distill. I'm doing all the liquor stuff is fun. You know, every once in a while I sit back and I say, you know, I should have studied computer programming back in school.
Does that mean that your computer skills are
well, aside
wanting?
from being wanting, but no, all those classmates of mine when I was going through undergraduate that went and worked for Netscape
Oh, right.
or whatever,
Right.
they show up to the winery in their $100,000 Mercedes and stuff. But the one thing I do have that they don't have is, at the end of the day, I go back and I'll go meet my friends, and they'll pull up and they'll point at their phone or talk about this thing that they're doing. And I say, well, you know what? Here's what I did today. And stick a bottle of wine on the table. I said, that's what I did. To me, that's tangible It's evident, and you can go home at the end of the day and open up that bottle and say, I did a good job on this one.
Well, I can't say a word about that, except that, you know, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. This similar thing that you see with chefs, you know, this creative energy that they put into it. But the one thing that wine has is a fun thing when people get married, they'll frequently get some special wines or whatever, the baby's born, you buy a wine that year. You can open up that bottle of wine, like for instance, that you had at your wedding. You could save that wine for 20 years and you can drink that same wine on your 20th anniversary. You're not going to be eating the same meal you had back then.
No.
No. So it's a fun thing.
See, that's the part of the legacy about this that lasts.
Yeah, and every once in a while, I've got been going through our old cellar with wines.
Is that
going
in
back
Livermore
to this.
or?
It's in my mom's garage.
Sure. Yeah.
In Healdsburg.
Yeah.
All the wines that we saved, and slowly going through and picking out a few, and you can go back and here's something from 1970 something, and here's something from 1983, and what were you doing in that year?
And you still have to meet that friend of mine who has 4,000 bottles.
He starts opening them up.
I mean, you know, so I'll arrange that when you're ready, like next month.
Yeah, I've got one friend of mine that has been collecting wine for how long? 40 years. And he went through the wine program, studying wine at UC Davis, but ended up sticking to his day job, which was working for the post office. But he's been collecting these wines for all these years, and we'll get together with him, our group of friends from college, and he can come up with, everybody that's at that table, he can come up with a bottle of wine that was made in your birth year.
Oh, wow.
That's the vintage date on the label. We did one with a group of friends, that big tasting in Paris, the 1976, where that California won, or won a lot of the top awards in that thing. He was able to recreate most of that tasting and go back and see. And these top wines, they've got movies about them, and you can't buy that particular wine anymore. I mean, the collectors aren't giving it up.
Yeah.
I mean, $10,000, I don't know. It's,
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
And he'll pull those out of his cellar collection, and it's like, what do you guys think? And he's very proud of having them and sharing them. That's real nice. That's another fun part of the wine business. You know, just that community that you get.
And it's all due to the grape. The grapes.
The grape, the natural, the land that we have, the climate up here, Northern California.
Yeah.
Right now I'm working on a project to do some distilled spirits infusions. By finding locally grown products, like I'm working on lavender is one of them.
Lavender wine, you mean, or?
No, infusing
essence?
Lavender into a distilled spirit.
Oh. Is that like an essence that goes into it, or?
Kid, we're not sure what it's going to be.
Oh, okay.
But it's, you know, all those lavender farms up in Sonoma.
Right.
You can buy it locally, and my sister.
Boy, the old ladies should like that, because they love lavender.
Well, I mean, depends on how much you put in there, because you got to be able to drink it in the end.
Right, yeah.
I'm not
Can't
making
be over.
perfume.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of Sonoma has a lot more than Napa, which is all these farms, organic farms, trying to find native grown plants, which has been a fun thing, because we don't have a long history in California of I don't know, encouraging the native plants, edible plants. I mean, they've all mostly been stuff that we brought in from Europe.
Oh, okay.
You know, because California's only been a couple hundred years that it's been sort of domesticated by Western European, whatever
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it that we have going here.
I know, I see fields of lavender in France.
Yeah.
Acres and acres and acres.
Yeah. Now that one's not, of course, it's not native to California, but it is a popular thing. Or everywhere I go, rosemary seems to grow wild around here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That would be a nice addition.
If you like rosemary.
Well, see, any
The Italians
flavor in
certainly would.
small amounts is
Yeah.
complexity.
Yeah.
So you can't go overboard.
Yeah.
So those are some fun things on the.
Well, it sounds like you have a good challenge. And you wouldn't get bored.
Never. No. Never any boredom.
Wow, my goodness. Well, we don't have much time left.
Are we
Yeah,
running out?
yeah, we're running out here, but that's okay. I mean, we've covered a lot from the beginning until now. You think?
It's good. Well, I should have brought a bunch of wine or whiskey or something.
You didn't bring any? That's okay.
I did. We did one in Livermore, and I brought it, and all we did was drink the whole time. I have no idea how that podcast turned out.
Oh, so you did do a podcast already?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think it was a drink cast.
well, so you did it on Zoom?
No, we
Oh.
did it in the studio,
Oh,
But-
okay.
and they had 4 people around the table, and they were all chiming in. But when I started opening up wine,
Oh,
boy,
yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure.
that was a horse of a different
loose,
color.
loose lips?
A little bit, yeah, especially these guys. But we'll do it.
Oh.
Now, if you start just an exclusive wine podcast, then people want to bring in.
That-
They bring you their samples, and then
That would
all you
be-
do is sit
so
around and
Do
drink.
they have that? Do they have just wine podcasts?
They've got at least one.
Oh, then there's room.
Yeah,
There's
they're-
room. There's room.
Competition on the way.
Well, I mean, hey, there's 860,000 podcasts. But, some of them are short-lived. You've got to have the passion
Yeah.
to sustain it, I mean, just like what you're doing. You have to have the creative passion to want to be sustaining what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Every day, moving forward.
Yeah, so if you don't have that, then it doesn't last. Not very long. So that's where I am. I'm, this is about you, not me.
Wow.
Anyway, thank you for being here and sharing your knowledge and your expertise and all of it.